Hi Pine class, it is Thursday afternoon and it is story time. And in our previous reading session we finished chapter 13 of Danny the Champion of the World. So today we're going to read chapter 14, which is called Into the Wood. And again, it's quite a long chapter, so I'll read half today and half tomorrow. So here we go. My father came out of the caravan wearing the old navy blue sweater and the brown cloth cap with the peak pulled down low over his eyes. "What's under there, Dad?" I asked, seeing the bulge at his waistline. He pulled up his sweater and showed me two thin but very large white cotton sacks. They were bound neat and tidy round his belly. "To carry the stuff," he said. "Aha! Go and put on your sweater," he said. "It's brown, isn't it?" "Yes," I said. "That'll do. But take off those white sneakers and wear your black shoes instead." I went into the caravan and changed my shoes and put on my sweater. When I came out again, my father was standing by the pump, squinting anxiously up at the sun, which was now only the width of a man's hand above the line of trees across the crest of the ridge on the far side of the valley. "I'm ready, Dad." "Good boy. Off we go." "Have you got the raisins?" I asked. "In here," he said, tapping his trouser pocket where yet another bulge was showing. I put them all into one bag. It was a calm, sunny evening with little wisps of brilliant white cloud hanging motionless in the sky, and the valley was cool and very quiet as the two of us began walking together along the road that ran between the hills towards Wendover. The iron thing underneath my father's foot made a noise like a hammer striking a nail each time it hit the road. "This is it, Danny. We're on our way now," he said. By golly, I wish my old dad were coming with us on this one. He'd have given his right teeth to be here at the moment. "Mum too," I said. "Ah, yes," he said, giving a little sigh. "Your mother would have loved this one." Then he said, "Your mother was a great one for walking, Danny, and she'd always bring something home with her to brighten up the caravan. In summer it was wild flowers or grasses. When the grass was in seed, she could make it look absolutely beautiful in a jug of water, especially with some stalks of wheat or barley in between. In the autumn she would pick branches of leaves, and in the winter it was berries or old man's beard." We kept going. Then he said, "How do you feel, Danny?" "Terrific," I said, and I meant it. For although the snakes were still wiggling in my stomach, I wouldn't have swapped places with the King of Arabia at that moment. "Do you think they might have dug any more of those pits for us to fall into?" I asked. "Don't you go worrying about pits, Danny," my father said. "I'll be on the lookout for them this time. We shall go very carefully and very slowly once we're in the wood." "How dark will it be in there when we arrive?" "Not too dark," he said. "Quite light, in fact." "Then how do we stop the keepers from seeing us?" "Ah," he said, "that's the fun of the whole thing. That's what it's all about. It's hide and seek. It's the greatest game of hide and seek in the whole world." "You mean because they've got guns?" "Well, that does add a bit of flavour to it, yes." We didn't talk much after that, but as we got closer and closer to the wood, I could see my father becoming more and more twitchy as the excitement began to build up in him. He would get hold of some awful old tune, and instead of using the words, he would go tum tiddly tum tum over and over again. Then he would get hold of another tune and go pom piddly pom pom piddly pom pom. As he sang, he tried to keep time with the tap tap of his iron foot on the roadway. When he got tired of that, he said to me, "I'll tell you something interesting about pheasants, Danny. The law says they're wild birds, so they only belong to you when they're on your own land. Did you know that?" "I didn't know that, Dad." "So if one of Mr. Hazel's pheasants flew over and perched on our filling station," he said, "it would belong to us. No one would be allowed to touch it." "You mean even if Mr. Hazel had bought it himself as a chick?" I said. "Even if he'd bought it and reared it in his own wood?" "Absolutely," my father said. "Once it flies off his own land, he's lost it. Unless, of course, it flies back again." It's the same with fish. Once a trout or a salmon has swum out of your stretch of the river into somebody else's, you can't very well say, "Hey, that's mine, I want it back," can you? Of course not, I said. But I didn't know it was like that with pheasants. It's the same with all game, my father said. Hare, deer, partridge, grouse, you name it. We'd been walking steadily for about an hour and a quarter, and we were coming to the gap in the hedge where the cart track led up to the hill over the big wood where the pheasants lived. We crossed over the road and we went through the gap. We walked on up the cart track, and when we reached the crest of the hill, we could see the wood ahead of us, huge and dark with the sun going down behind the trees, and little sparks of gold shining through. "No talking, Danny, once we're inside," my father said. "Keep very close to me and try not to go snapping any branches." 5 minutes later we were there. The wood skirted the edge of the track on the right-hand side, with only the hedge between it and us. "Come on," my father said. "In we go." He slipped through the hedge on all fours, and I followed. It was cool and murky inside the wood. No sunlight came in at all. My father took me by the hand, and together we started walking forward between the trees. I was very grateful to him for holding my hand. I'd wanted to take hold of his the moment we entered the wood, but I thought he might disapprove. My father was very tense. He was picking his feet up high and putting them down gently on the brown leaves. He kept his head moving all the time, the eyes sweeping slowly from side to side, searching for danger. I tried doing the same, but soon I began to see a keeper behind every tree, so I gave it up. We went on like this for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, going slowly deeper and deeper into the wood. Then a large patch of sky appeared ahead of us in the roof of the forest, and I knew that this must be the clearing. My father had told me that the clearing was the place where the young birds were introduced into the wood in early July, where they were fed and watered and guarded by the keepers, and where many of them stayed from force of habit until the shooting began. "There's always plenty of pheasants in the clearing," my father had said. "And keepers, Dad?" "Yes," he'd said, "but there's thick bushes all around, and that helps." The clearing was about 100 yards ahead of us. We stopped behind a big tree while my father let his eyes travel very slowly all around. He was checking each little shadow and every part of the wood within sight. "We're going to have to crawl the next bit," he whispered, letting go of my hand. "Keep close behind me all the time, Danny, and do exactly as I do. If you see me lie flat on my face, you do the same, right?" "Right," I whispered back. "Off we go then. This is it." And we're going to have to stop there today, and we'll see how Danny and his father get on tomorrow.